Right. Well, we can't make everybody happy, can we?
Those people going.
Hello.
Sorry. Oh, no, it's okay. So this number 1 says release from the MAPE bargaining unit, and we'll
We gotta be ready to get started.
I'm finding your number.
You're live?
Oh, we're live.
Call to order regular meeting of Chisholm City Council for August 10th, 2022. Good evening, everyone. Susan, could you take roll call, please?
Yes. Counselor Halverson.
Present.
Counselor Raha.
Present.
Counselor Thornton.
Here.
Counselor Lance.
Here.
Counselor Lackey. Absent. Mayor Champa.
Here. Council adopt the agenda. You wonder when you have a month in between how we get all these last minute things, but if we don't look at them right now, we're gonna be another month. So, Robert wasn't feeling well with Wendell 5 Bugle, so we're gonna remove him off, and I'll tell you where we're gonna put him in a second, but he won't be here tonight. We'd like to look at doing a working session. Let me see. Working session with Robert.
We're gonna do a working session for the 3rd Street project with SEH.
You want to do a special meeting with Robert? Special meeting. I'm going to put all these under you, okay? So we have the working session for the budget number 6. So let me back up. That's why I put it there. Number 6 under Stephanie, we have the working session. We're going to talk about initial budget. We're going to have Bonnie and Jeff in. And there's two things. We'd like to bring Robert in that same night since he's not going to be here tonight. And the fire department at the last minute tonight, and Stephanie needs a little more time to see if this is a feasible thing. We'd like to discuss a possible purchase of a St. Louis County vehicle that same night. We'll have more information. So I would like to just include them under number 6. So remove number 1, add them under number 6. A couple other items we need to look at tonight. Number 9 under Stephanie. She called me on Monday and she said, I've never been through negotiations like MAPE or asked me negotiations before. Do we do committees or what do we do? And I said, yeah, normally we set up a committee with at least one council person. Well, they've already reached out to us, so I'd like to set up a committee as number 9 under Stephanie tonight for both of those unions. And then the last item, our staff met with SEH and the contractor this morning to talk about 3rd Street. I'd like to look at a working session. We can talk about dates when we get there. Stephanie has some in mind, but as number 10 under her, I'd like to do a working session with SEH to talk about things like the project, how happy or displeased we are with it, possible liquidated damages, things that need to be done, and have SEH give us a update on all of that. Because we're going to have to make some decisions so that the contractor can wrap that whole thing up. So, any questions on those items, those changes before I look for motion?
Make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, April. Second for that?
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, public participation. We have Sarafia Gravel tonight from VEMA. Did you want to speak or you just want to be here on behalf of your event that we're going to discuss later?
Yeah, I'll just be here in case there's any questions. Daniel Coward is here also.
Okay. Okay, so we'll just jump over that then, Council, and we'll just so you know when we get to it on the agenda, they're present. Council reports. Start with Adam. Adam, report tonight.
Not much to report for myself. We just got over the 5 best days of summer. Very successful all-class reunion. So thank you very much for that committee. Mark Weinstein did a tremendous job with everybody else and his staff. Everyone all over the region is talking about it. I got people messaging me from Hibbing, Virginia, Evelyn. They said how great it was to come over here and how great Chisholm is. And it is just a reflection of the people and committees. So thank you all very much. And yeah, other than that, everybody was busy. Kiwanis was busy with fair parking. Again, probably one of the biggest fundraisers for them for the year, so that all went pretty smoothly. I will say people love being told where to park, so that's very interesting, helping with that. But other than that, no other report.
It cost me $20 in a boot too.
Well, thank you very much.
Cheyenne, report tonight. Good evening.
Good evening. No report.
Travis is absent tonight. April, report tonight. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a formal report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Marty, report tonight. Good evening.
Good evening. I attended a Park and Recreation Board meeting. Also did a meeting with Jim Johnson, Larry Folstead regarding the flooding that happened on the north side of town here on July 31st due to that rainstorm. Also attended the all-class festivities, and yeah, it was quite a good event. It was awesome. The Redhead area, attended the film premiere that was there a few weeks ago, and gave a little talk on behalf of the city regarding Redhead. That was a good event. It was sold out. It was also out with the MCA group that's going to come in October with the thousands of high school racers, and we toured the course and talked to them about logistics and things. And then we had a joint meeting with the city, IROC, and MDC about Redhead. And then finally been doing a lot of work with the contractor out there and working with them on the work they're doing and getting that wrapped up for the year. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Marty. Marty, I'm going to ask this question only because I'm going to forget to ask Stephanie tomorrow, and I know you're on the committee. Any movement or anything with the school on the fields? I know there's a little bit, but...
Yeah.
I'm not on that committee, but...
Oh, I thought you were. Okay. I can't remember who was on it. Okay.
They're doing this.
Adam's on there.
Okay. You're doing a survey?
We're doing
Okay.
the survey work. We're right in the middle of it. They should
Okay.
be done soon with it.
Okay, good. Just for me, congratulations, first of all, to everybody that filed for public office. These jobs aren't for anybody, and, just signing up, I appreciate it. Obviously, congratulations to the ones that are moving on to the general election. All-class committee, all-class reunion. Wow, it really was a wow. There were Friday and Saturday, there were literally 3 blocks of people you couldn't even move. I know from my own class, some people that never show up to class reunions were here, and some of them that normally are here weren't, but there it just a lot of people I haven't seen since high school, and that was 39 years ago, so that's a long time ago. HRA, last meeting we officially directed the director to go out for bids for these little brick buildings and Mapleview buildings. We're going to go through, we're going to remodel every one of them. They're all, other than a couple of them, are occupied, so we're kind of going to go through one building and kind of move everybody into the new stuff and just kind of move through and move people. So that should have its own interesting concept, trying to get people to move where they've been living so we can continue. PUC, I'll lean on Larry a little bit on this one. When he gets up, he can add a little bit more. But, the hot topics we're talking about there is lead lines. Larry, can you talk to us when you get up? But basically, we've been kind of given notice that, over the next 20 years, over the next couple of years, we got to address the lead lines, but then over like a 20-year period, we have to figure out how these things are all going to get replaced, these extensions, people. If I missed anything, let me know. And then obviously I&I is a huge problem in this town. We're getting huge flows at the waste treatment plant when we have rains, and just keep working on it. We're working on trying to repair manholes where we know we've got leaky manholes. We did that smoke testing last year. We're finally got all the ordinances and everything in place that we can tell them they now need to fix them. So it's kind of weird to have been here 20 years ago and the flows are still the same as they were 20 years ago. Think about how many sewer projects we've had. So it seems like it ain't helping. I think that's it. Any questions, Council, before we move on? All right, Ambulance Director, you got a report tonight, Jess? Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. So to kind of tap into what everybody else is talking about with the events this past week, it's definitely been a busy one. We did participate in National Night Out on Tuesday in Vulcan Township. That was pretty cool. They had a good turnout. So Wednesday through Sunday, we did 3 standbys and participated in the parade. We had a total of 23 calls for service, 7 of which occurred on Sunday alone, one of our busier days. Not quite the busiest, but close to. And I'm proud to say that we were able to handle all of our calls locally. We did not have to call for mutual aid for any of our calls, so that's also we did actually, and that included 2 calls to Hibbing to provide mutual aid to them, but we were canceled prior to arrival on those. And I also just want to bring some awareness out. One of our EMT's cars, she did unfortunately leave it unlocked yesterday while it was parked in our lot while they were on a call. And some opportunistic people decided to start rifling through her belongings and took some stuff. So just be hyper cognizant, lock your vehicles, keep everything hidden. There's my law enforcement. That's all I have unless you guys have questions for me.
Council, anything for Jess?
Thank you, Jess.
Good job, keep it up. Fire Chief, report tonight, Chris?
Yes. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Beautiful night out. We also participated in the National Night Out in Vulcan. It was a great turnout. We had a good turnout. A lot of guys showed up for it. So thank you to Vulcan for hosting that. Calls for the year. We're approaching 130 calls for the year. To put that in perspective, last year we had 150 total. So we're almost there. We'll probably get that in middle September, the way it's going. So it's definitely been a busy year. Maintenance. Our trucks have required more maintenance than usual this year. We are approaching, I was talking to Justin, who does our maintenance, heads it. We're probably approaching $20,000 for our maintenance for our pumps and trucks this year, which to me just seems a little high. But we did switch vendors. We felt we weren't getting the right, service that we wanted from the previous vendors, so we switched vendors. We have saved a few dollars doing that. So trying our best to, budget our money the best we can. And like Steph said, the Vulcan truck, it is not running right now. It's down again. That truck is, we've had it for about 12 years. It's been a pain in the butt, kind of. It's 1986, I believe, 85, carbureted, 1-ton Dodge. The body's in good shape, but the rest of it's falling apart. So that's why we talked to the DNR, and they have some excess equipment, and they sent us a list of a couple trucks and we might be interested in. And hopefully at the next council meeting we'll have something for you on that. But it looks to be the one we're looking at looks to be a pretty decent truck, so to replace that with. And a little more modern, 20 years newer, which would help. But that truck pulls our portable pump that we use out on Vulcan calls. And without that truck, we got no way to pull that pump with all the equipment it goes with it. So it is a need. But that is all I have. Any questions?
Council, anything for the Fire Chief? Thank you, Chris. Police Chief Vern, report tonight?
I don't have a report, just took my PSA, so.
Add to it.
Council, anything for the Chief? Building official Manny, report tonight. Good evening.
No report other than the 2 items on the agenda.
Council, anything for Mandy that's not on the agenda? Thank you. City Engineer Jim, report tonight.
I have no report other than what I've got on the agenda, unless you have questions of me. Thank you.
Okay, anything for Jim, Council? All right, Public Works, Larry. Good evening.
Evening, thank you, Mayor, councilors. A few report updates for you. We continue to work through the budget process so we can start our meetings next week with Minister Arba. Weather, as Marty spoke to, we are working on some storm sewer research, just kind of evaluating our system, coming up with a valuable plan, so we're just doing things what we can, and we're getting the best that we can when we're out there. Besides the rain events, you're well aware that last Sunday before Sunday we had, anywhere from recorded at National Weather Service from 3 inches of rain in 45 minutes all the way to 5 inches in 45 minutes. So that's up to 250 to a 500-year rain event, very significant, and always going to get some damage, and just the system will never be able to take that kind of rain. So, but beyond that, and it's been a windier year, something that maybe we don't pay attention all the time, maybe make a comment or two about it, but the flags, if you noticed, are in disrepair already on the causeway, and there's tails and that. I reached out to the vendor, and we got the same quality flags we have been buying for the last few years, but it's a significantly windier year than it has been for our region. And they're seeing problems all the way from Fargo through the Midwest. And they suggested that we could take the flags down and send them back to them, and they will resew the ends of them and try to get us another month or two. But it's not looking like that time of year is going to be here, or there's going to be that much time at the end of the year to do that, get them back up, move over to the other side, get them down, sent out, and put back up. We're probably going to lose our flags a little bit early. The only solution I can come up with, but it's not a good budgetary solution, is we buy a new set of flags, we put them up, we have these repaired, and then we have 2 sets next year to get us through the year. So not always the great solution, but that's the easiest one. The flags are about $6,000 a year that we spend, so very significant. So, any comments on that, please reach out to me. We're still trying to work through that. I'll work with Administrator Scrub on what we can and can't do. So, PUC update, Mayor, thank you. So the lead line, newest thing in the water department is we're going to start with a survey and information gathering of our system and homeowner systems the best we can. We'll be reaching out by letter, phone, Facebook, all them different things. We're working with vendors right now to see what that looks like exactly. The EPA and the MPECA are not clicking all together on this right now, so there's some mandates that aren't really in effect, but they want them in effect, so we'll continue to work through them things. The mayor also spoke to the Central Iron Range Sanitary Sewer District. The flows continue to be high on our sewer, but we have had 10 significant rain events, which we all had discussions about sump pumps and other things, old foundation drains, our city getting older every year. So those flows are up significantly, and truly we've had 10 significant rain events this year. If you remember, just Memorial Day, we had 2 in one day. The morning of that Memorial Day and then that night. So fire department was out, all that. So the salt shed is up, and you can see it down there. It's 6th Street Southwest at our future area. The vendor will be coming to put the tarp on next week. And that's kind of the transition to fall now, that the dock, everyone had a great time at the dock, and the parades and that. We start to transition into the salt and all that winter stuff, so it's coming. Campground doing very well. Bridget and I continue to work through things there, but we're sold out, and continue to be sold out, and Labor Day weekend looking very well there. I got the school zone signs that the council approved last meeting. I got that from a vendor, and I'm working with Administrator Scrabble on the funds for the signs. It's coming in around $2,000 for all the signs for that, the school zone. And then the casual laborers are starting to leave also. That's the biggest thing for us right now. So all that work that we had to get done this summer is now being just funneled, just slowly, and trying to get every last thing done. That's really what I have. I know it's a lot, but any questions for me?
Larry, go ahead, Marty.
Where do they measure the flow that goes out to the Central Iron Range plant?
They measure it out there at their
inlet.
Yes.
From the ponds or from?
No, I believe, and Mayor got a tour last.
Yeah, like Buell and Great Scott and everything comes one way, and Chisholm comes the other way, and they got meters in 2 different spots.
Meters.
So they can tell exactly what's coming from us. And they got some things to like catch sand and stuff too, to try to, before it gets into the
How does
plant.
the pond system play into that? Is that just for storing excess water?
I think it's for overflow now, is all it's
And
really
they
used for.
treat it as they can.
Yeah.
So they measure it, comes in, it either goes into the plant or up into the ponds.
They're very proud folks out there, and if you want to tour anybody, they're very happy to show us around. It's one of the newest around. And if you're ever wanting to
someday.
dig a tour that would interest you, sure.
Yeah, it's an award-winning plant. I mean, they win awards out there every year for being one of the most efficiently run
But
stuff.
kind of as we were talking about the storm sewers, I think we could kind of do similar things on the sanitaries and
Yes.
just start, where we think we have issues, is just start doing the same thing that we talked about.
Very much.
Just-
Working our way up.
Problem is, the best thing to do it is at night. when
Yeah.
There's nobody using water.
That's right, 2 in the morning.
Yep. So that's kind of,
Yeah.
overtime and issues like that.
Yeah, and then safety too, we've
Yeah.
seen that. Yeah,
But if there's no water coming out of the water plant, and you're seeing a lot of water in the sewers, like, well,
That's right.
where is it coming from?
absolutely.
Okay, thanks, Larry.
No, as you guys were talking, I had forgot what it was, and I'm going, oh, really? So you do use a dirt floor on them salt shacks, huh?
Towards the back, yep.
Oh.
You're basically just doing nothing with, well, I'm sorry, the paving, we're gonna pave an apron and half of it.
Oh,
But being that it's storage, the other half is just dirt floor.
so that any water can get out, is that the
Yeah.
idea? Okay.
Yeah, and it would be useless under all that sand, you know, because we would like to have a 1.5 year inventory, up to 2 year inventory, because on those really bad years, of course. So then it would be useless under that sand, so, yeah.
Okay, so, and that's all okay, that salt leaches into the ground? Nope.
Yeah, it's by spec, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it leaches, you know, Mother Nature will clean itself, so leaching, I don't know. it's
Yeah,
the
I
right
don't,
word.
probably not the right term.
And
but-
then, you know, truly it is covered, so there shouldn't be any contamination from water, really.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's all I got. Council, anything else for Larry? Is that all you got, or?
that's it. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Parks, Trails, Rec, Bridget, you report tonight? Good evening.
Good evening, councilors and mayor, and everybody who's here. Thank you. Just wanted to give an update on the Chisholm Summer Rec Program. We had, in counting, 110 participants. It was a great season, minus closing for a few days. But we are excited to plan for next year, and in doing so, we are looking at and considering, and it'll be a proposal in the budget for 2023, upping it a week, an extra week, so that the kids can have one more week of fun with us at Chisholm Summer Rec. Redhead Mountain Bike, I wanted to share that we are working on a merchandise opportunity to expand who can sell Redhead merchandise. So there'll be a booklet coming once the trademark stuff is all completed, and other local shops can sell Redhead merchandise. So that's being worked on. And then you may have seen, if you're tuned into social media, but there's another voting opportunity to vote for Redhead as the best hiking trail in the region, best of the best out of the Duluth News Tribune. So I think if we win that, we'll get some Duluthians coming up here that haven't heard from me that they need to come up here, because I'm trying to get them. But Redhead is the best hiking, so let's not forget that, and you can share and vote daily until the 22nd. And then league-wise, volleyball has wrapped up besides the final game for the Gold League on Monday. And kudos to the Silver League winner, Spiked Punch, who won. Go Spiked Punch, well done. Adult league softball is wrapping up too. The youth is wrapping up, and Rich gave an update on that at the committee, or at the board meeting, and he said it was a great season, and that all the volunteers have been working really hard on the fields and keeping them up to date and nice. And for some description on that dock field, he said when a couple of years back when they started taking on dock field, it was mediocre at best, and now it's way better than mediocre, and he doesn't need it to be the best field in the region, but as long as it's better than mediocre, they're happy, and so that's kind of cool. And then let's see, I had maybe one more, a couple upcoming events. Renegade Trail Run, you might be familiar with from the past year. It's a United Way fundraiser for veterans, and that will be taking place at Redhead on the September 10th. If you don't want to run it yourself, 5K, 25K, you can volunteer, and we're looking for volunteers. So just head over to the United Way to volunteer for that. I know some of you in the room are volunteering. Way to go. Chisholm Flag football will be starting, so tell all your friends and family to get kids in grades 4 through 6 signed up. We're trying to market a little bit more, so we have more than 2 teams. It would be nice to have 4 teams again, so we're gonna work on that. And then the youth center will be opening up as long as we pass everything tonight and get the staff hired. But the estimated date to start that is September 13th. And we want to rock out some marketing and get kids out into the youth center so that they can get homework help and eat our snacks and all of that fun stuff. So that's all my updates. If you have any questions, let me know.
Council, anything for Bridget? Bridget, I got a few. Are you? I don't have as many questions as April, so I'm going to burn up my time during the reports. The merchandise, you mentioned the merchandise. Are we going to try to find a way to kick a little money back towards the Redhead from the, you know, obviously that's a huge price tag to maintain that, so
Right.
that'd be great.
Yep, so half of the proceeds will go back to the trail maintenance fund. So that's gonna be well established in this material that I give to local businesses. They kind of have to follow the guidelines if they wanna sell the merchandise, because that's kind of an established expectation.
And then the one extra week, I think anybody that has children, or in my case grandchildren, that are sitting looking at the wall right now, when they, you know, I like the one extra week. The next thing, I don't want to make it sound like Tammy wasn't doing as good of a job as you, but maybe I wasn't paying attention. But I seen a lot of different events this year that you guys did that really seemed cool. I seen a bowling. I seen you guys were up at Redhead. There were a few of them, and that's neat. Need to get the kids out, move them around a little bit too.
We'll keep adding stuff. Redhead's new because Redhead's new, but they did go bowling in the past. I haven't changed the program all that much. I added Ultimate Chicken. That's a game.
Okay. And then the last thing, I don't know if this is good or bad. I look at, we had our biggest event this summer, and the fair was going on the same time, and I think, is that good or is that bad? Now we have the second event we're doing downtown, probably the second biggest event, which is the Schnorr Mud Fest, and we do the veteran thing out there same weekend. So it's both for the veterans. So I don't know if it's good or bad to do them the same time, but it's something to think about. I don't know.
I'll keep that.
We always seem to do that. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. All right, he's not here. City Attorney report tonight?
No formal report, Mayor.
Thank you. Anything for Brian, Council? I do have something. Maybe it's gone already. Is the trailer house still down there? Do we have anything? What do we know about that?
Waiting for Attorney Lindsay, Mayor.
It's moved out of the campground, and I'm looking for one final signature before we can dispose of it.
Okay. I've seen it on Facebook, so. All right. Thank you, Brian. Clerk Treasurer, Eileen, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, members of council. So I have a few things to share this evening. First is we completed the primary election last night. It's really such an honor and privilege to be part of Democracy in Action, such an important responsibility to fulfill. And I wanted to say how wonderful it was to work with such experienced and knowledgeable election judges, as well as election department staff. They really did an excellent job. And I wanted to recognize Christy Castagneri. She led our team and facilitated the entire election process at that event, and she does a really good job every year. And of course, Denise Keeley was a big part of that. So thank you, election judges. You did a wonderful job, and you should be proud. The community should be proud. Also, we'll have the primary election results posted on the city website. I'm still confirming the amounts, and we'll give that to Susan probably tomorrow morning to post on our website. So those will be there. The public safety building USDA loan, we did complete the pre-application submission to our USDA contact. The next step is stage 2. We have some additional applications to complete and submit. Stephanie and I met on all of these applications or documents. There are several. We are scheduled to meet with our USDA representative, Tyler Ray, next week sometime, to discuss any questions that we have. But Stephanie and I are up to date on what we need to accomplish to get those documents completed. So we should have those, have our questions answered and get those done in a reasonable amount of time. Ambulance revenues. Jess and I met with our contact at Transmedic, Beth Newman. She's the president of that organization. They handle all our billing for that department. We met to discuss understanding the reports that she provides to us every month. There's quite a bit of information on those reports, and really just trying to navigate through them and have a better understanding about what we can expect in revenues. Because what we see from the accounting side, accounting finance side, is yes, the receipt of check payments from various insurance providers, and electronic fund transfers from federal and state agencies. But we don't really, we're trying to understand how much is billed and how much we're going to collect. So we were able to meet with Beth, and we have a little bit better understanding, just a little. And on some positive news is that I did confirm today that we are regularly receiving EFT payments from federal and state agencies. So it's been quite active this month. We've received almost $30,000 in EFT payments in the last 9 days. And in the month of July, it was $79,000. That's just EFT payments. So it looks like they're starting to roll in. That's a total of $108,000. So it's looking good. We're moving in the right direction as far as receiving and record keeping of revenues for the ambulance department. In regard to the budget, Larry mentioned that we will be having a meeting next week with Stephanie and department heads to discuss our first draft of budgets in preparation to our discussion with council during the special session to be scheduled tonight. It will give us a really good foundation when the council's ready to set the proposed tax levy, right? We're starting the conversation a little earlier than last year or years previous to that. So we'll be in a good place for you to make an informed decision. And we have 2 council meetings in September. The due date for that proposed city levy is on September 30th. So you'll have 2 council meetings to make a decision about that. Let's see. The draft of fiscal year 2021 financial reports has been received from Sterling Company. Stephanie and I have a meeting with Bonnie scheduled tomorrow to discuss those, address any questions, and Bonnie will also, I believe, may have a final, maybe an updated draft, because she had to do a little bit more work before her final version was ready. Jeff, originally we arranged for Jeff to do his presentation at the first council meeting in September. But because we're going to be scheduling a special session the week of August 22nd, I invited him to do it then, and he said yes. So I'll just let him know what date you guys decide on after tonight's meeting. And there's a couple of agenda items under Stephanie that I wanted to offer support on if you have questions. The agenda items are canvassing the votes resolution, right? Stephanie, did I take that?
That's tomorrow.
Oh, that's tomorrow, I apologize. So there's only one agenda item, and that's the city hall hours, the extension of the continuation of how they are set up currently. So if you have any questions, I'm here to support that. Any questions for me?
Council, anything for Eileen at this point?
Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
Administrator Scraba, report tonight. Good evening.
Good evening. We had an EDA meeting this morning, and our engineering students will be moving in on August 19th. So I went over to the building today, and the contractors are there getting everything finalized. So we will expect them coming into town then. I also want to thank everybody that was involved in the all class. Great work. Thank you for the city staff that many overtime hours and all the volunteers that made that happen. It was a great event. Just to follow up with what Eileen was discussing for the public safety building, I just got word this week that our pre-design for our state bonding was approved, except for one minor change on the cover letter, which we'll get that wrapped up. But this has been a long time coming for the pre-design, so we were very excited to see that that was approved. So one step closer on that funding too. I think that's all I have. Any questions for me?
Council, anything for Stephanie? All right, that's our reports. We'll move on to the consent agenda. These are your list of bills. Your communications, which are the Planning Commission, June 6, 2022 meeting minutes. Police Commission, June 7, 2022 meeting minutes. Public Utility Commission, June 15, 2022 meeting minutes. HRA, June 16, 2022 meeting minutes. Planning Commission, July 11, 2022 meeting minutes. Police Commission, July 12, 2022 meeting minutes. Airport Authority 2023 draft budget. Just a reminder, we have that meeting next Monday at 5 p.m. It would be nice to have a quorum, I believe. It would be nice to have it'd be nice. I believe you're going to be gone. Is that when you're going to be gone with your mom for her birthday?
Yeah.
Okay. Wish her happy birthday from us. We'll live if we can get 4 people there. Ella Vaughn, Commercial Card Optimization Solutions Communication, League of Minnesota Cities Dues, Increased Letter, Annual Conference Reminder, Notice from Nationwide Investment Replacement Change, Minutes of the previous City Council meetings approved July 13th, 2022 to regular meeting, payroll, and overtime. You get a motion to accept consent agenda.
Make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Second.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Discussions, changes, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. New business. Start out with Jess. EMT recommendation for hire. Good evening.
Good evening. Just asking the council for approval to hire applicant for an EMT. Make the motion.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Second for that? Adam?
Yes.
Thank you. Further discussion? Comes with some pretty good credentials, I understand.
Yes, sir.
It's a good addition to our staff. Not that we don't have a lot of great people there already. Any other discussion, council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Essentia Health Buell Ambulance Mutual Aid Agreement, 25 to 27, council.
This is a mutual aid agreement with Essentia Health, who did take over operations of the ambulance.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, April. Attorney Lindsay, you reviewed that?
I did, everything looked appropriate.
Further discussion, council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Collaboration agreement with Lifelink 3.
This will be for, if LifeLink transports the patient, we will still be able to receive some payments for services rendered and collaboration for scene support or if they fly.
Make that motion.
Thank you, April, second.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. There's a lot to this agreement, isn't there? I was reading through some of this going, wow, they must do some other things in different areas where they actually got some boots on the ground. Yeah. Marty, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question, just, maybe you can clarify this a little bit for me. We're doing just Exhibit B, right? Not A and C, that's those checked in their box? That was the first question, just to confirm that. Scene support?
Okay.
We're only doing scene support, right? Okay. So for that, I'm a little curious about paragraph 2.1. Lifelink will pay as long as only Lifelink has provided transport. So what if there's a scenario where we transport to the Lifelink pickup site? Do we?
So we get some reimbursement from mileage on that, from what my understanding that there is. Let's see what the.
It says, because there's 4 conditions there to get payment. So if we bring somebody to the Lifelink and they haul them away, then it sounds like we don't get anything the way this is written.
If you see anything there, Brian, that jumps out at you, feel free to chime in.
Unless condition, I guess all these conditions have to be met in order for them to pay anything to the city. Now, if there happens to be a case where we arrive at the scene and the helicopter arrives at the same scene, they transport, sounds like they can give us something for scene support in that case. So
Right.
I'm a little.
So I'm trying to see here on the mileage specific.
Attorney Lindsay, do you want to chime in?
So, the way that I read this is where Lifelink is agreeing to pay the city is where they provide the exclusive transport and these other conditions are met. And one of the conditions is that the city is not able to bill independently. And my understanding is, and Jess, please correct me if I misunderstand this, is that if we actually say we need to take somebody in an ambulance and transport them to a location to be taken out, then we could bill for that transport piece
Separately.
couldn't we?
And that's my big question here is, what happens when we transport to like, say they pick somebody up at the Iron Man statue and fly them away, then do we bill separately, or are we trying to be dependent on them? And if we're depending on them, and they do the transport, sounds like we don't get anything.
So it would be considered part of that ground support, because a lot of times they can't make it into the actual scene itself.
Right.
So, as far as insurance billables, it is whatever entity physically delivers the patient to the hospital that can bill the insurance, and then it boils down to the agreements amongst those agencies to get reimbursement for whatever services rendered. So my quick scan on this interpretation in light of your question is that would be kind of considered part of our support to them. I would have to reach out and ask specifically on mileage to the scene, but yes, in my understanding, and obviously we hadn't had this agreement in previous to now, and we have flown some patients, but I have not heard that there have been issues with receiving any payments on those since we transported to a landing zone.
So scene support is different than transporting or moving a patient in our ambulance?
Yes. Yeah. So we bill.
Oh, if it's a scene that's not where they can land a helicopter, we end up transporting them.
But we don't deliver to the hospital.
So
it's
we're not going to get anything out of it then.
Not from the insurance. So that's where we would recoup them. We would bill the same thing like with the mutual aid agreements for paramedic intercepts. For instance, Hibbing comes and helps us. We physically deliver the patient to the hospital with Hibbing on board, or Virginia, whoever ALS. We bill the insurance. We can bill at an ALS rate since ALS things were done, and then that ALS agency would then turn around and invoice us for tech time or supply fees, however they
from our hitting our Virginia helpers.
Right,
Okay.
right, and then we would pay them from whatever monies we collected from the insurance.
So it's kind of open to a little bit of interpretation with regard to that billing. I mean, I have to agree that, yeah, you guys did move them and get them where we can pick them up, and you should be compensated in some form or fashion.
Right, I mean, and I can reach back out to them and specify how mileage specifically is handled in those particular situations, because I don't know for 100% certain.
It just seems like the way it's written is that the only way we would get any scene support payment is if our ambulance and the helicopter show up at the same scene at the same time, we help out, we give care. But they transport to the hospital, so we don't, we would get something because we were there helping.
Right, so
But if we bring somebody from an accident to the helicopter and then the helicopter takes them to the hospital, we're not gonna
My
see
personal interpretation, for whatever it may be, is that we would then be, what is transport? So I think in this realm, we're thinking transport is that actual trip to the hospital, whereas we may just be moving our patients. Same thing if I bring them, downstairs from an upper floor.
But helicopters have very limited places where they can pick up. So inevitably, most cases, we're gonna deliver it to the landing pad if it's a urgent situation. I don't know.
Mayor, if I may?
Yep.
As I read it, I'm reading the definition on Exhibit B 1.1, the definition of scene support. And I think that it could be interpreted that where it says, scene support includes administering treatments to patients or preparing patients for transport in lifelink emergency transport vehicles. And I think preparing them for transport could mean getting them to a location. So I think that that portion of it would be reasonably interpreted as part of ground
All
support.
right, I feel better about that now.
Lance, any other questions?
Good catch.
We do have motion support, don't we, Susan? On it already. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jess. Chief Manor, St. Joseph's Catholic Church raffle gambling application.
This is, St. Joe's is always early on this raffle for January 24th of 2023. So,
Just be prepared.
yeah, absolutely, always.
So you're looking for a motion to approve the gambling application for St. Joseph's Catholic Church.
Make the motion.
Thank you, Marty. Second for that.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Gambling application designee. Do we just turn this right to our attorney? And see if it's okay to do? Have you reviewed this at all, what he's hoping to do here, Attorney Lindsay?
Yeah, I have, and I didn't see any real issue with it.
Do you, just go through it with the council, and then we'll take off from there.
Not everybody's as ready as St. Joe's and does it 6 months ahead of time. A lot of these gambling applications, people are gonna do something, a raffle, and they come in last minute, and they're like, oh, I've gotta do that form, and the form needs city approval. However, unlike in our liquor licenses, all those temporary liquor licenses, everything, that under our ordinance has to have council approval, so those have to come in front of council for approval. The gambling applications just say signed off by the city. So we used to have the gambling commission that actually signed off on these, and somehow they're always coming to the council, but in timely fashion, like now when we only have one council meeting a month, and someone forgets to do something, they're not gonna be able to get their gambling application in time to do their fundraiser or whatever they want to partake in. So my question, I reached out to Brian, is can we put a designee, or designee signers for things, and can that be more than one person, or does that be the gambling committee, or could it be just the police chief or the administrator, that we designate someone that follows up on these to make sure they have their I'm the one who usually follows up on, make sure everything that's, they have their 501c3 and they have their paperwork. But then can we just have that approved and not have to come to council and slow down that process? Or if someone's late, there are times people bring them to me the day after a council meeting, it's like, well, you're gonna have to wait now. So, and their event, because they just don't know that.
Who would you think the designee should be? You?
I don't know.
And should we have an alternate?
I was thinking the commission, but, and because anyone can sign this. Now, sometimes I sign these after a council meeting, sometimes it's the administrator. So, we just need a representative. But so anybody can sign it in a position of authority, but I defer to the attorney wants to talk.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is one of those authorities that is delegables, which means that the council can designate any person or group to do it. And so we could look to the chief's recommendation and make the gambling commission the approving authority, and then the chair of that commission would be the one who would sign off, who would actually sign the documents. The challenge may be, if what we're trying to do is improve the efficiency of the system and we appoint the gambling commission, the question may be, how easy could it be to get a meeting together with that gambling commission? And then, are there restrictions about posting that meeting and giving notice and the like? It could very likely happen more quickly than regularly scheduled council meetings, but you're probably looking at a couple days delay, which would be probably a good improvement in the flow of those applications. And it may be a good middle ground, because to a certain extent the folks that are making the applications need to take some responsibility to get them in a timely manner, and this would give us a little bit more flexibility without maybe going too far.
So who should we designate then?
The commission.
You think the commission's the right thing to do?
Is the commission better than just one person? That's your recommendation, right? It sounds like.
The commission would be the natural body to do it, and I think it would be a good fit.
And should there be a co-signer on it?
Well, not necessarily. Essentially, the commission would have to consider the application. The vote would have to happen within the commission meeting, and then you would have the chair of the commission, a designated person, would sign off. I mean, you could have it countersigned by the chair of the commission and our city administrator. And then from there, they would all come back and be essentially ratified by the council, because the council would be made aware that they were issued.
So you'd require them to do the 72-hour meet?
Correct. Yeah,
Prove it, and then it gets to our next meeting and be ratified.
Yep, they'd have to give notice to their meetings.
Okay, I like it.
Vern, got a quick question for you. So on this application, it does say 30 days or more before the event. So people fill this out,
Oh, yeah.
like say 5 days before the event.
Oh, well.
I mean, that's no.
Yep.
I mean, they should probably read the fine print on the top of the page, and it gives them ample time to.
Well, and that's one of the things that happens, is people don't know they have to do this. So, in a sense, it's the city approving it for the state to send on the state. So, that's one of the points that is an issue.
So can the gambling commission change the application to remove that 30-day notice?
The LG 220 is a Minnesota gambling. So I think
So we can't really do this, is what you're saying?
We can, the action that the council is looking to take to delegate the authority for application approval, that is a permissible step that we can take. That is within our authority.
Yeah, but then
Mayor,
you have the 30-day waiting period, so that's,
I have a question, if I may.
can you come up so that people at home can hear you? I just, like I said, April brings up an interesting point. She's saying that they're supposed to be filled out 30 days in advance. So can we do this?
So I had a question about our ordinance, our gambling ordinance. if there's language that provides guidance on this as well. Because the 30 days is specific to is it the state's application?
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to know if we have language that provides guidelines to, deadlines that applicants have to meet. Maybe we're communicating something that's not consistent with the application. I don't know.
That's a good question, and I'm not aware of any. Instead of having Ryan scroll through and try to look for it, we can bring this back to the next council meeting. It's not as an urgent event. It was just something that came up, so I can bring this back and research that.
Marty?
Mr. Mayor, I guess what I'm seeing is that the 30 days or more just affects the fee. Or is there something
Well,
else about
there's
the-
also that language too, that
Where's the other 30-day language? Yeah, I think-
Right up at the top, it says the application is acknowledged with a 30-day waiting period and allows the board to issue a permit after 30 days. 60 for a first-class city, so apparently we're at least a second-class.
Where's that part down?
Right up in the upper
Page
corner up
45.
here. On page,
45.
On 45.
Well, hold on a second there, because there's two things you can mark there. The application is acknowledged with no waiting period. That's the council that signs off on that there's no waiting period. So it's either waiting period or we make them make a waiting period.
oh, I see that, so it does say right there, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we want to do, council? You want to take this up right now? I like the idea of streamlining it. I like the idea that we still require them to call a special meeting to do it, which the board would have to do, which makes it at least 72 hours.
I'll make a motion to have the gambling commission do these approvals if the city can't meet in time, if it's a 72-hour or 1 week or something before, that we authorize the gambling commission to approve them.
Support.
Brian, do you want us to wait before we vote, or you?
No, to take this action is well within the council's authority.
All right. Further discussion?
Who's
Okay.
on the gambling commission?
Currently, right now, it's the administrator and the. No, no, it's not Vern. Currently, it is the administrator and the chairman of the police commission, which is something we might want to look at. The chairman used to always be the chief of police, but we changed that before Brian's time. But in this way, I would have, with your authority, I would have Rachel do the 72-hour, run her as the minute taker of the meeting versus having Susan do it. She's got enough. I can twist Rachel's arm to do it, so we can have all that set through Rachel. But right now, it's just those two. The third at-large person is a member of a gambling organization that conducts gambling within the city limits, but we do not have any resident we do not have any local gambling affiliations doing anything in the city, so we don't have that person. So that was the 3-member board. It used to be a lot larger board, like I said, the chair was always the police. They wanted to move it to the police commission, and then they made a weird change at one time, so. I thought it was getting me out of meetings, but it really did. Or getting me out of this work, it really did. But that's something you might want to look at a different, might be one of those ordinances we want to look at.
Should we look at that too? See if it's.
We can't do that today, but we can research it and come up with different recommendations.
Further discussions, council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brian.
Don't worry, Deputy, I'll make it flawless.
All right, move on to Mandy. Adoption of International Property Maintenance Code.
At our last planning commission meeting, the planning commission approved unanimously to adopt the International Property Maintenance Code. And what that is, it's basically, you know, we have the building code in place, and this is basically just an addendum to our building code that, it would it would cover more grounds, it would cover the yard, or it would cover exterior and interior where the building code would not come into play. So, I know Stephanie gave copies to everybody of the housing rehabilitation report that we are working on. And basically, what the International Property Maintenance Code is just a tool for us to use, if we have to. We're not necessarily going to be enforcing this code, drive around and start citing properties on this code. What we're basically going to do is try to get funding for people to fix up properties for our rehab program. And then this way we would just have something to cite. And it's a little bit, it goes a little further than the building code as far as exterior of buildings, maintenance of yards, that type of thing. So, and then we do also have Mr. Streeter in the audience here who is working on our Winton edition and also the housing rehabilitation programs.
So Manny, I just have a few comments. I'm not against this. However, it's going to sound like it when I get done, okay? Being I'm in the life safety business, I put in fire alarms and burglar alarms and whatnot. You know, so I looked at that section 7. It's a whole section on that type of stuff. And one of the things you mentioned is, well, we're going to kind of use it as a guideline. But however, under section 7, it mentions that everybody has a fire alarm in this city and is supposed to have a fire alarm, has to make sure they're testing it every year, and fire extinguishers got to be tested every year, and da-da-da. And taking it kind of light approach, I believe, could cause some liability to the city, okay? If we're adopting something that says this needs to be done, I have a little bit of concern that we're not somehow making sure people are doing these things. And that's just one of the sections. I'm sure every section has things that, for example, if you have an egress window, you can have a grate over it, but they better be able to get the grate off or something. I read that in there, okay? And you know, my concern is about getting ourselves in a little bit of a corner. I don't like international code anyway, okay? Because I don't necessarily feel it fits these little towns. It's made for big cities where there's huge issues and it's harder to control it without something, you know, but like I said, I'm not against it because there's a lot of things in there that will do great things for us. But I have a little concern about implementing all these rules and things and not really enforcing them. Attorney Lindsay, you got any thoughts on that? That would be my only take, I think.
And Mayor, I think it's a legitimate concern. And I was, as I was listening to the comments, that same thought kind of crept into my mind. When we put these issues, and obviously most cities aren't going to go out, and when you get to something like an international maintenance code, the ability to enforce every provision of those codes to the absolute and to make sure that there's perfect compliance everywhere, any city or any town's ability to do that is not going to be very good. I mean, it touches on a lot of different issues. What we should do, and I think to kind of speak to the mayor's point, if we do adopt a code, we should definitely make clear to folks what areas, what sections of that maintenance code we focus on and which we may not focus on as much. Or if we're going to go around and do compliance checks or be checking items, we should let folks know ahead of time what the areas of focus are that we'll be checking during any given year. So.
Right. Just an example, if we were to adopt a rental licensing program, this would be something that we would fall back on. Right now, we currently don't have that. We don't necessarily have the staff or the time to do a rental licensing program right now, but if we did in the future ever do that, this is something that we would cite quite a bit.
Like I said, I'm not against it. I just see this is a huge document of things that we're looking to, you know, and I'm just concerned about it. I'm just concerned. Marty?
No, Mr. Mayor, I also have a number of concerns, I guess mostly just if it's not put into context like you're talking about, it's gonna be part of some housing and rental program, which that hasn't really been provided to us until maybe just now. Is that what this is?
Yeah.
Is this the housing report that you're talking about? Okay. Well, Mandy, I talked on the phone today, and I mean, there is a context that they're looking to work with this on and try to get funding, and maybe it'll help with part of that, but as a standalone document, this thing is like a sledgehammer. That if the city wants to go around and say, hey, look, grandma, you live in your house, it's 100 years old, your stairs are not in compliance, and you have to upgrade you have to get up to code, and it's your responsibility and your cost, and if you don't, it's a misdemeanor. It says that right in there. This is a whopper of a document.
It is a whopper of a document.
And I think we got to be really careful about putting burdens on our low-income citizens that, you know, I'm not saying that Mandy's gonna go do that, but Mandy's successor could be the exact opposite of Mandy and go around and start inspecting houses and say your bathroom's out of code, your stairway's out of code, you don't have this right, and you have to fix it. It's on your dollar. It's your dollar. You fix it, and if you don't, we can file a misdemeanor charge against you, and we can force you, or we can condemn your building. And I think we got to be really careful about how we're proceeding with this.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm not against it. You know, I to try to read that whole document,
I got about 20, 30 pages into it, and I said, I don't think
I
like this. And then I guess another small item is that the planning commission just approved this last week. We haven't even seen their minutes. I believe you that they did it, but don't we have to see the minutes and approve the minutes before we start taking action that the planning commission recommends a policy? I don't know.
Commission minutes in your packets until the commission themselves.
Well, right, yeah, but, so we're jumping the gun here procedurally, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was an emergency, that'd be one thing, but this isn't an emergency, I don't think. But shouldn't we have the minutes in our packet and reviewed and approved by the council before we start taking policy decisions from the planning commission? I would think.
Well, the only thing they're gonna prove is the minutes that they were done right, so it's approved by them. So I don't know if that's a problem. Like I said, my more concern, it just seems like if I was the only one that got this, I'd probably say, Planning Commission, can you take it back, maybe involve the city attorney, and let's see how this is all gonna work. Bring forward all the concerns and try to address them ahead of time. Because it's a sledgehammer. I mean, I even read in there where your house has to have the right with egress to get out of the house from anywhere in the house or something like that.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
and I'm like going, I don't know. Like you said, it's
That's all in the building code as well. So.
Yeah, I know, but you know what I'm saying? My concern is, yeah, it's just concerning, if the town read this document, my concerns would be the least probably of our problems, I think.
Pitchforks.
If you just threw this out at the grocery store, put a pile of them out there, I think you'd get asked a lot of questions. So I'm not against it. I think we should try to maybe clean it up a little bit and see if we can address. My bigger concerns are if something happens that's in that and we're not really compliant. For example, it says in there, if you got a fire alarm, you should be testing it every year. It's sort of on the owner of the building to do it, but if nobody's ever checking it, how does that fall on us? Things like that. That concerns me a little bit, So if we take something on like this, I think we should somehow have some plan to do some due diligence on some of it, some of the more key ones, and the life safety ones, that just keeps coming back to me because I know a little bit about that stuff. So,
in talking to Mandy today, it sounds like this is a part of a bigger plan to, improve housing and maybe get grant money and do all this, which is great. But it wasn't presented with a context like that. It was just say, well, we're just gonna adopt this now. But if it's part of a plan, let's get it into a good plan that we can all understand. And what role does it play in that plan, and how critical is it to implementing a plan for housing redevelopment and rehabilitation? I'm sure it's an important factor, and maybe to qualify for funding, you need to adopt it or have it there in your pocket to say, well, we check the box, we have this now. But it's certainly, the document itself grants all sorts of enforcement and powers to the city and the inspector, and it certainly could be taken in a totally different direction than I think what the intent of this planning commission is. If we're just planning to use it to help get us funding, that's one objective, but if we have it, boy, I think we're opening ourselves up to a lot of issues. And I think it could have definitely put a lot of burden on our low-income residents by forcing them to, so all you have to do is hold up the book of the code and say, look, you gotta do this. And if you don't, we're gonna come after you. That's the way it's written.
It is.
It really wasn't the intent of what we're
Of
trying
course,
to do.
it's not the intent, but
It really isn't the intent of the planning commission.
there's the unintended consequences.
Or
That's the
myself,
problem.
yeah.
Does the building code have the same type of terminology? Like this is how you have to be compliant or you're gonna be held responsible? And is that an international code that we follow?
Yes, the building code's the international building code with the state amendments.
Okay.
So ICC actually puts it out the same.
That one was adopted after I left.
Right.
That's building code for new construction, right?
Right.
This, wherever it is, I guess it's on our email.
Right, or any remodeling, anything.
Right.
Once a permit is applied for.
Yeah,
then-
right, you're dealing with remodels, new permits, permits for remodels. But this thing applies to every property in town.
Right.
That's the big difference.
And the exterior and
Yep.
yards, etc.
And I know we wanna get rid of blight, we want everybody to improve, but, I don't know.
Bob is gonna chime in as well, Bob Streeter, that's working on some
I'm not
new
in support.
developments.
Mayor
At
and
this
Council,
point.
all of your questions are really good questions. Having been the one who's had to administer this in a big city, in a little city, everything you're saying sounds very familiar, but let me draw some distinctions. The way it's typically used in a city is, the International Property Maintenance Code is the basis for your rental code. It covers both the exterior of the property, the interior, as well as the yard. And the reason that's important is oftentimes tenants have a problem. The property is not held in good repair, and they complain they're afraid of being evicted.
Right.
They lose their housing. So it's a way to protect tenants from having to go through that. It also provides them a way to sort of get their maintenance concerns met. So the full property maintenance code would apply to rental property. In the cities that I've worked in, we've taken part of the International Property Maintenance Code for single-family detached and owner-occupied, and we've applied it to the exterior yard area and the exterior part of the structure, not the interior. And the council could do that. That's important because I can tell you, I don't know how many times people have come to me or did come to me and say, I'm trying to sell my house, but the house next to me is full of junk. I can't sell my house. And that happens more often than not. So it's not just about the person who may be subject to the code, it's about the consequences for everybody else around that house or living in that rental property that doesn't really have a way to get their maintenance concerns addressed. So I just wanted to share, again, I think it's important that for a rental code, it's exterior, interior, and the yard, but for single-family detached, owner-occupied, it's usually just the yard and the exterior. The distinction I'd like to make is the property maintenance code tells folks what the standard is for maintaining your property. The building code says if you're gonna do any work, how to do the work. They are not the same thing. You can't substitute one for the other. So one sets a standard, and then one tells you how you have to go about doing the rehab or the new construction. So just wanted to add that.
Okay. Attorney Lindsay, how do you adopt something like this? Just council motion is one thing?
Correct.
One and done, if
Yep.
we decided to? Okay. Like I said, my thought would be send it back to the planning commission, try to put together what the key points of why we're adopting this are and how we're gonna use it. I don't wanna vote against it tonight, which I will do. I might still lose, I didn't hear from 3 people. But I think with a little bit of tailoring of how exactly we're gonna use it, so it actually shows up in, I think it's palatable to me. I think we can make it work. That's it.
I think we'd probably be better off having a working session than trying to send it back where we talk about it, we come to a consensus on the planning and zoning, we bring it back to you, it's not properly reiterated, and all of a sudden you still don't support it. So I would probably have a working session regarding this, so we can all voice your concerns, we can have a conversation, have somebody else there to help educate us on how we can adopt certain aspects of it and not. I believe there's plenty that we can do in this community to make sure that it is a nice community for everybody. You know, you got shingles, falling off of a house next door, and you do want to sell. It's a hard thing. You have blight issues that we can't enforce. That's a very hard thing. So there are things that we do need to be progressive at. But.
Agreed. Thought would be a working session, planning commission and council? I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Do we have
You want to
that
try to
as the
set
next
it?
agenda, or
You
can we
want
do that
to?
right now? Attorney,
What's that?
can we change this right now and make a working
Yeah,
session?
we could redirect this into a working session, right? That's not an issue, if somebody wants to look at. So, Stephanie, talk about these other meetings we're trying to set up. One next week, you thought the 16th or the
Yeah.
17th, the following week, midweek sometime. So, the 2 other meetings that we have to talk about later. So,
September for this one.
what's that?
I said maybe in September for this one.
Yeah, maybe we can get a little bit more knowledgeable. Bob seems to be knowledgeable. Maybe we'll take 3 weeks or something. Maybe first week in September. You guys want to set it now and give us some time? Let's see what we got going on there. Let me see what I got going on. I love meetings, so. Of course, I'm in my 12th year. I don't love them as much as I used to.
That's what I was gonna say. So our next planning commission meeting would be September 5th.
Labor Day?
We want-
That's Labor
12th.
Day.
Oh, okay. Then it would
12th.
be the 12th.
So how about we just join your planning commission meeting? When do you have them? Do you have them in the evening?
4 p.m. September 12th at 4 p.m.
Can we readjust you a little bit, push you back? Can we change your planning commission meeting? We can do that, can't we, Attorney Lindsay?
Sure, if I just need to make sure the planning commissioners are able to attend.
I hate to do it. I could make 4 o'clock, but I know that we like to.
It'd be tough for everybody else.
I can do 4 o'clock.
I can make it work.
Can you do 4 April or no?
How about we just make it, let the planning commission do what the planning commission does, and then we join them after, and then
At 5?
at 5 or something. Do you meet that long
Yes,
normally?
we do. We don't have any public hearings scheduled as of yet, but that could change.
Okay.
So,
Maybe Bob can zoom in.
I'll make a motion to set a working session with the Planning and Zoning Commission, September 12th at 5 p.m.
Support.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion?
I'd just also like to ask that if anybody does have any questions or concerns, that you send them out beforehand so we can actually talk about them and, have the information present at that meeting.
So if we wanted to bring Bob in via Zoom, would we have to do it in this building here? Is this where the planning meets too?
Yep, they meet here.
Okay, so we'll try to give you that option if you want to attend. Okay, good. Any other discussion, council? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Casey Schleisman, variance request.
yes, so, at the Monday, August 1st Planning Commission meeting, there was a public hearing for a variance request. of Casey Schleisman, and she is requesting a variance of 0 feet instead of a 2-foot setback for her fence on the east property line. Public hearing notices were sent out. We didn't receive any feedback on it. There was no one in attendance to comment for or against the request, and the planning commission did approve the 0-foot setback on the east property line only unanimously. All of the other property setbacks will meet the current setback.
So it was 2 feet to 0 feet on the one side. It sounded like that the neighbor's gonna use that fence as kind of their side of their fence, so there's only one fence?
Yes, I.
Instead of having two of them touching each other?
Right, and they didn't want to lose the 2 feet of the yard space.
You know, my father, God rest his soul, he used to always say, everybody's got to have a 2-foot setback. Who's cutting that 4 feet between those fences? He says, that's the stupidest thing anyone ever came up with. I can see why you do it, because you don't want to encroach on the other property, and this is a good situation because the other people are going, this is great, I got a fence on one side of my house, so. Entertain a motion to allow the variance, planning commission's request.
I'll make that motion.
Second for that?
Support. I have a question.
April, go ahead.
Okay. So, I know you said that you guys had a meeting here, and she does state that, in her paperwork that the neighbors are both okay with this. Is there anything in writing from her neighbors?
No, we don't have anything in writing, but we do have the public hearing.
And that gives them...
Yes, and that gives the notice that everything was sent out. It's published and then sent out.
To those specific neighbors?
Yes.
In a mail?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's published in the Mesabi Daily Tribune on Wednesdays.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion, council? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. Jim, pay application number 8 for 3rd Street Northwest Improvement Projects.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The request for council action, which I think provides a good summary, is provided on page 51. We can go into detail if you want to on page 53. Basically, this is paying for the work that was done by the turf restoration subcontractor for seeding and sodding. And if there's a bright spot on this project, the seeding and sodding job that was done out there is as good as I've ever seen. And if you go out there, it's a lush green grass growing very well. So with that, I would recommend payment. As you see, the total work value of that seeding and sodding is $37,461, and we retain 5% of that. So I am recommending payment in the amount of $35,587.95. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Jim, is the unit cost for the sod the same as it was bid?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Council looking for motion to pay application for $35,587.95.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, April, second.
Support.
Further discussion, council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Pay application number 2 final for 2022 street rehab project, our mill and overlay project.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. On page 54 is my request for council action. As you remember, a month ago, we approved pay application number 1. And what was retained off of that was the remaining 5% retainage, which we need to hold until we get the closeout documents and so forth, which we have now received. And as you remember, a portion of that is for approval by EDA. Most of it is the city portion of it. So with this, the total, as you see in the last line on page 54, the total recommended payment to KGM contractor is $22,134.85. The portion that we're asking asking you to approve is $20,836.56, with the EDA portion for their approval being the $1,298.29. I would recommend that payment to KGM Contractors, and would they be happy to answer any questions you have?
Bless you.
Council, if there's no questions, I entertain a motion to accept that pay request or approve that pay request.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, April. Second.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution number 0822-73, setting assessment hearing for 2021-2022 street rehabilitation, the Mill and Overlay project. Joe?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As part of that assessment process, now that the project has been finalized and we've approved final payment, what I'm suggesting is to conduct the assessment hearing, which is part of the Chapter 429 process, be held at 5 o'clock in advance of your first meeting in September. In advance of that, we have to publish it in a legal newspaper 2 weeks in advance. We also have to send out individual notices to the probably several hundred people that are being assessed for this project. And just for your information, if you look at the resolution, the top half up in that top paragraph, last couple lines, you'll see that the contract amount, the construction amount for that work that was done on that approximate 25 blocks amounted to $442,697.06. I've estimated the expenses to finish out this, the overhead items, being an additional $77,023.54, and bringing the total cost of that project, estimated total cost to $519,720.60. And then in the next paragraph, on a now therefore paragraph 1, you'll see that the city's portion of this cost is $378,964.35, and the cost that we'll be assessing to the several hundred abutting property owners is $140,756.25, and that amounts to about 27.1% of the total project cost that we'll be collecting in assessments.
So you want to hold a public hearing, 5 p.m. September 14th, which is before our meeting.
Correct.
Did you say 21%?
27.1% is the 140,000 percentage out of that 519,000.
Looking for motion to adopt resolution 0822-73, setting that public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Second.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion? Susan, make sure you note that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Bridget, approve youth flag football coach coordinator job description and hire. I guess I only have one question. Is it the same as last year?
Is the job description the same? The job description is minus the salary or the lump sum paid.
Suppose you wrote that somewhere and I missed it. There it is. So we're looking for motion to approve the flag football coordinator coach job description for and hire.
And
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, April. Second.
Support.
Thank you, Marty. Further discussion? What's that? Do I need to say that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Job posting request for youth center.
it's a job posting request and also a request to hire. This should have come to council last month, but I didn't get it here in time. I would need to hire as soon as possible to be able to have the positions filled to open on the date we'd like to open.
I have some questions, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, April.
Thank you. So you're looking at wanting to hire 3 casuals, seasonal employees?
Up to 3.
Up to 3?
Yep, it's likely 2 if it stays the same from years past.
And then how many hours would each person get?
Hour-wise, they go with, it's 2
Shifts?
days a week,
Yeah.
3:30 to 7:30.
3:30.
But they can, as a seasonal employee, can only do the 60 shift. So it stays within that.
And it's, like you said, it's only 3 days a week. Okay, thank you. That's what I kinda wanted to know. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So we're looking for a motion to, do the job posting for youth center, hire up to 3 casuals, pay cap rate of $15.50 an hour.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Second for that?
Second.
Thank you, April. She beat ya. Further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Job posting request for skating shack. No need, no changes, same as last year.
Same job description as last year. Same amount of positions. I'm on schedule with hiring on that one, so it will be posted soon, and the closing date on that, I think it's written on here, October, I believe, is when we would stop collecting applications. But the position starts December through March.
Okay,
Would we want to raise that cap to match the
Right.
youth program workers? It's obviously a lot more work to work at a skating rink attendant, you know.
Right.
what do we got budgeted? 15?
50 cents more an hour.
Is that a motion?
I'll make that motion with
Second.
the 50 cents increase in cap.
Your second?
Yes, second.
Further discussion?
Fun.
No, Eileen and our auditor's gonna chew us up for spending 50 cents an hour more, that ain't budgeted.
Yeah, but it's only 1 month this year.
Hey.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Request from VEMA to use Kiwanis Park on August 27, 2022, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Sounds like a fun little event.
It does sound
Sarafi is here as well.
And the Parks Department would recommend approval of this event.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Support.
Thank you, April. Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion, council?
Sorry, there was something I needed to ask with that.
Come on up.
Is it too late?
No, come on up. Everybody likes to hear us at home, so if I let you sit back there, I get chewed out.
Okay,
Good evening.
The event is only from 11 to 2, just so you guys know, but we just need the time in the park to prepare and then tear down and all that stuff. The second thing I wanted to ask was if it would be possible to close the street from where it's like Lake and Central to that sort of alley right before that K&S building. So it would just be like, there's the empty lot across the street, and then there's the Kiwanis Park. If we could just close that street down from 11 to 2, because there's gonna be a lot of kids. Hopefully there will be a lot of kids. And just, just to be sure that it's safe. The bouncy house is gonna kind of protect that other side from where Central is, and then we're gonna park vehicles there also to sort of just block people in.
For no issue on your behalf, motion maker?
Larry? Larry, would we be able to do that?
Yeah, we'll probably have to have some staff come out and close the street, and then I would also, if there is garbage or electric needed at the site.
Electric, yes.
Electric.
What he's asking is if you need extra garbage cans, could there be food and stuff?
Yeah, like
Because
what
there's
kind
not
of
really
event
many
is it?
there.
Yeah, but
Treats, snacks.
I mean, VEMA has a big dumpster already, so we could just bring our bags to our dumpster and take care of it that way. We're right there, so.
You want to tell everybody at home what's going on?
Sure. We're having an end of the summer block party for kids, obviously. Adults and parents are welcome to. We're gonna have hot dogs and chips and some games and a bouncy house, and we're gonna be giving away some back to school supplies also. So that's August 27th from 11 to 2.
I loved it.
Thank you.
Did we get a motion already? You're okay with the closing the street and the in-kind services we need to associate with it? With our city staff?
Yeah, because it's on a Saturday, so they would get overtime for that. Is the call out 4 hours, right? Yeah.
2 minutes,
You okay with it?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I know. Who made the second? Shannon, you okay with it too? Yeah, like you said, when you're doing things for our people here,
Especially for
it's
the
easier to
kids
say
and-
yes, and especially with the kids, so.
Yes, sir.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution number, you keep looking at me like I'm doing something wrong here. Resolution 0822-7 for accept donation in honor of Joel Maturi for $500. 66. From Jennifer Chisholm. Donated $500 in honor of Joel Maturi. She's from the class of 1973. She wants to donate it to our Parks, Trails, and Recreation Department.
Earmarked for the Chisholm Summer Rec Program.
You're marked for it. Oh, okay, good addition. So I'm looking for a motion to adopt the resolution 0822-74 to accept that donation and earmark it towards Recreation Department. Summer Rec Program.
I'll make that motion and request to send a thank you letter.
Thank you, Adam. Second for that?
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion? On favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Bridget. I think we got all your stuff out of the way. All right, City Attorney, line freeze claim. I think you're just looking to move this item.
Put that down at the bottom, please, and join it with item number 8.
Item number 8, where? Oh, that's all you're gonna do, you want to blow?
Yep.
Join it with the closed session. All right, good. Do we need a motion to do that?
No, we could just.
All right, it's moved. I guess we're getting to Bob. Bob, you're up next. So he's gonna do a little Wenton housing update. I believe he's gonna try to do a little screen show for us here and talk, and Stephanie's gonna try to make it work. So we'll just give him a second. Oh, you're already, sure. Good evening, Bob.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, what I'll be doing is providing the council an update on what has happened with regard to the wetland area small area planning process, where we've been, what we found out, and where we're going. So this is about a 42-slide presentation, and I know it's like 1970 with the old slide wheel. It's not going to go on forever. So I'm going to move through it more quickly on some slides. Others, I'll spend some time, but if you have any questions, let me know. To begin, something about the project. So the council, back in February 9th, to be exact, indicated they would like to attract new home construction to the Wenton site by preparing the property for redevelopment. And this particular intent is reflected in the city's recently adopted comprehensive plan. I won't read that, but that is the language from page 51. And it's really about providing quality housing options for folks who want to move within Chisholm or move to Chisholm. So this particular slide show is the one generally that's going to be presented to the public, as well as information I share with local contractors and developers. So this slide shouldn't be new to any of the council members, but I wanted to point out that this site and Chisholm is located very conveniently within many cities within the Iron Range. So folks could work someplace outside of Chisholm and still live here. There's many different employment centers. Stephanie? The next thing I want to do is put the site in context. One of the interesting thing is that this site is located a 20-minute walk from downtown, by bike 7 minutes, by drive 4, and about a 4-minute drive from 169. So again, within the city, it's very conveniently located. And then this is the neighborhood context. This is to help folks around this area understand what we're talking about when we say Wetland Addition, but it's essentially bordered by 10th Avenue on the west, 9th Street right away and 8th Street on the north, the 8th Avenue right away on the east, and the 7th, and then the neighborhood along 7th Avenue, and then to the south, the 5th Avenue right away. This is a close-up. You'll see that this aerial photograph shows that the site is largely tree-covered, except one lower area in the northwest, which is an ephemeral wetland, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So this slide shows the 1959 plat. This is Wenton Addition. This property was platted in 1959 as Wenton Addition. You'll see that generally it comprises about 34 acres. 5 acres are private, and the balance of 29 acres, which includes the area in green as well as the gray area right of way, this is what Chisholm owns, is about 29 acres. You can see in the upper right corner some areas have been developed. To the north is the Liberty Addition, to the south is the Auditors Addition. So what is the small area plan? Very simply, the small area plan is a development plan for a specific area. It creates a framework for the property regarding land use, circulation, parks, open space, and the surrounding area. It also identifies amendments to the comprehensive plan, the zoning ordinance, and the capital improvement plan necessary to implement the property. And lastly, it includes a lot of community engagement, and it supports the city council in their decision making. So these slides, the next 4 are the different phases. Tonight I'm going to be providing the council with an update on phase 1. So phase 1 was really getting background information. Before we can develop a plan, we have to know what we're working with. We have to understand the opportunities and constraints. Stephanie? Phase 2 is where we're going, and I'll talk about that at the end of the presentation. Phase 3 is looking at concept alternatives, how the site could be designed. And phase 4 is implementing that, and that would be amending the zoning ordinance, creating a PUD, amending the comprehensive plan, looking at capital improvements that may be necessary to see the site developed. So what are the roles and responsibilities? I put these next slides in here because I think the public's going to want to know on September 6th, how do we participate? What's our role? So the council's role and responsibility is to authorize the process, which you've done, to set expectations, and to make key decisions at specific points during the process. The Planning Commission's role is to provide input on issues, goals, policies, plan alternatives during the process, and to assist and support the City Council in decision making. And the community and neighbors, both throughout Chisholm as well as adjacent to the site, to also provide input on issues, goals, policies, and plan alternatives. The last 2 expectations are clear, open, and transparent communication during the process, and to value neighborhood input, but the plan ought to reflect the citywide input and vision. Some of the initial expectations the council had for an outcome of this process was a plan that would attract developers and home builders to construct new owner-occupied housing, to achieve an attractive development concept while working within the site's physical opportunities and constraints, to respond to the market realities for housing, but focus on higher value owner-occupied housing. And the last 2 are to provide housing opportunities for current residents as well as those who may be moving to Chisholm for a job. And lastly, to increase the city's population as one way of addressing the potential loss of municipal state aid for local roads. The process takes up to 12 months. It will be somewhere between 9 and 12 months. And the final product will be a development framework, plan, comprehensive zoning ordinance amendments, land development cost estimates, and then there'll be a booklet. And I won't go into detail on that, but the city will have that, the builders and developers will have that to provide them all the information about the opportunity. So tonight I want to walk you through what we know, what we found out about Wetland Addition, because that is the first step, and we really want to get a handle on what are the opportunities and what are the constraints. What can we really do, and what's probably not feasible for a variety of reasons. So the first thing we do is we look at land use. So this site abuts to the west, up to Vulcan Township, and the land immediately to the west of the site is zoned residential. That's a good thing. So that means no land use conflicts. It's not industrial or outdoor storage or something loud and smelly. Within the city of Chisholm, to the north and the south, it's R2, and those are, so that's very complementary. Single family, detached, twin homes, and then to the east, single family. So again, these uses complement each other. So this is the ownership. So what you'll see here is the gray areas is the land within the Wetland plat that's privately owned and developed. The blue is land that's privately owned but undeveloped. And everything you see shaded in green, including the lots in the right-of-way, is what's essentially owned by the city of Chisholm. So after doing the survey, this is the topography. So basically, purple is high, green is lower. So from the south to the north, the site gently slopes between 5 and 12% from the south to the north. And those are not extreme grades for construction purposes. It's interesting because we walked the site. There was about 5 or 6 of us, and we walked internal to the site. Very unique, heavily wooded, but some really unique land features that could be amenities. When we talk about wetlands, again, these are the wetlands within the city of Chisholm and Vulcan outside the site. So you can see that this site is relatively high compared to the land area around it. These are the wetlands within the wetland addition. So, you know, between this and the topography, this is what myself and the landscape architect have to work with to figure out how do you put a development in here in a way that, you know, provides a high aesthetic, you know, highly attractive development that takes into considerations where the wetlands are and the topography. One thing I wanted to point out with this, the water flows from the south to the north. I thought it was going to be the other way. And there's a little creek, that little blue line is about 30 feet wide. It's sort of a rocky creek, or I call it a creek. But that actually looks kind of neat. So water flows from the south to the north. And up in the north, you see a little pond and a little yellow box. That's the city stormwater pond, and from there it goes into the storm sewer. So everything flows this way. So what I put this slide in here because some people may ask, why don't we just build the 1959 plat? Well, that's not possible because if you look at the topography and the wetlands, you'll see that the roads and the lots are sitting in the middle of the wetland, or they're sitting in very steep areas. So when this was platted in 1959, they didn't do the due diligence to figure out if it was actually buildable. They just said plat it and see what happens. So I wanted to point that out. If for those out here who are watching, if you're not familiar, this is a contour map. When the lines are really close together, those are very steep areas. Okay, so likely you're not going to see houses there. Okay. So I wanted to look at the road classification. I wasn't surprised. It's surrounded by local roads. You have some collectors. Those are the beige colored or pumpkin colored roads. So you've got good access into the site. You're not next to heavy traffic generators. These are the traffic counts. So not a lot of traffic on these local roads. And this development isn't likely to add a whole lot of traffic to this area. Most people will come out and they'll probably either go west or east, whatever it is, to 7th and south, or they'll go north. Sanitary sewer, one of the things we wanted to know is there a sewer and is it large enough? And the answer is yes. And you can see on 7th and 8th, which are two roads that enter the plat from the east, but then they stop and they dead end. There's a couple places, takeoff points for sanitary, and they're certainly sized enough to be able to handle what's ever constructed there. When we look at storm sewer, same thing. You've got 7th and 8th, and so the utilities are sufficient in terms of, right now, what we think is there's a takeoff points and certainly size that there's sufficient capacity. Same with water, everything runs in 7th and 8th. I apologize, this is the private utilities. They were hard to, it's hard to show them in the map, but there's fiber, electric, and gas. Plenty of gas lines in there, and fiber. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And this just shows a combination of all the public and private utilities in the right of way. I put that in there for Jim, because Jim likes to look at those kind of maps.
I like color.
Yeah, he likes color, yeah. Another thing that, I wanted to show was the amenities. So people who may want to buy or build here want to know what's around here. Is it in the middle of nowhere? Is there anything next to it? Well, Chisholm has a wonderful park system. You've got access to trails. So I wanted to put that site in context. If we look a little closer, you're going to see that Chisholm Memorial Park is to the south, and then there's a park, ball field, I guess, to the east. And what I wanted to show is from the edge of the Wetlands site to the park to the east is about a 10-minute walk. To Chisholm Memorial Park, it's about 10 minutes. The green lines show where there's sidewalks. The red line shows where people would be walking on the road. So that may be something you want to consider. And I guess if it goes from about 8th down to 3rd or 4th, and then from 4th down to the Memorial Park, there is sidewalk on one side. And if you look over on the park, it'll be beige. That means there's a sidewalk on the west side of the right-of-way, within the right-of-way, but not on the east. So let's get to the market study now. All of you should have the complete market study. All I did is pull out some of the more salient points. So when we do market studies, they're usually done looking out 5 years, because anything beyond that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But what did we find? Well, the ownership market, the people who are most likely to buy here are in their late 20s and early 40s, and they're moving up. Or they're independent, empty nesters, 65 years and older. The major source of demand is going to be from those moving within the area, within the trade area. About 70 or 80% are likely to come from within the trade area. About 70 or 80% are likely to come from within, and about another 20 to 30 are likely to come from without. Outside the market area, and that's the purple area. And in your market study, it will list the cities and townships that make that up, so you can look that up. Oh, Stephanie,
Oh,
did you just go
sorry.
back? Sorry. When we look at the purple area and we say, how many lots, single-family lots are there? There's 136. That's what's out, that's the supply. When we look at the demand is 261. So there's more demand than there is supply. If you just look at it on a straight numerical comparison. 22 or 20% or 52, it ought to be 53, of the 261 should be captured by Chisholm and this site. So why the 20%? Well, when they do market studies, they have to rely on a lot of historical data. They can't just say, well, here's what I think may happen in the future. So that number could be higher, because I will tell you, and you'll see in the study, that the competition is not selling. It hasn't sold for a decade. These other areas where people could build a home, they're not selling. These lots aren't selling, okay? And I think I know why, but I don't want to say now.
Right.
But this site's going to have some unique features, I think, that are going to make it very attractive compared to the other ones. So that 20% number may be higher. So what the market study showed is a combination of single-family detached and townhomes or twin homes with a homeowners association. People want that kinds of things taken care of. They want a turnkey and go. This provides a little more detail, and please spend some time on this part of the study. So the single-family homes, we're looking at 3 or 4 bedrooms. The houses somewhere between 1,400 and 2,100 square feet, with the base price of $255 to $315. You want to add 10 to 20% on that, because typically with new home construction, there's going to be some upgrades. And that includes the land and the building, and this includes having a garage and a house. So the other type of housing product are twin homes, about 16. And these numbers can change, they can go up and down. Bedrooms 2 to 3, they're a little bit smaller, and the base price is a little bit lower. And this reflects market activity looking back 5 and 10 years within the trade area. So these aren't numbers that the market person just decided, well, we'll put this. They're looking at what's been selling, what has sold, and so it's based again on history in the area. The last thing I wanted to point out was the title work, which there's a ton of title work. And the phase 1 environmental showed no problems. There's a few title questions that I have to get answered. But this is an aerial photograph from 1941. This is what this area looked like in 41. A lot more trees today than there was back in 41. And it looks like some farming or some activity on the north there. So we take this information and we begin to think about how do you design a site for lots and roads that takes advantage of the trees, the elevations, avoids the wetlands, and deals with the bedrock. I mean, I was standing on a rock. I thought it was a rock. It was a boulder. No, it wasn't a boulder. It was its own feature. It was like a little mountain. So we're probably not going to be building on that. Building probably won't happen on that, but it can be used as an amenity. It's kind of a lookout. It's kind of neat. So we got to take this information. Oh, sorry. We got to take this information, and then we have to step into phase 2. And phase 2 is a place for the council to establish the general vision and the goals for the development. Land use, circulation, parks, open space, pedestrian connections. What would you like to see there? It's at a higher level. It's not terribly prescriptive. But what that does, we take the information that the council provides with input from the community, because they're going to also provide their feedback, as well as maybe people living adjacent to the site saying, I have an issue with this. When we were out there, I was talking with a neighbor, and he said, you know what? I have stormwater sits here for a couple weeks every time in the spring. Like, that's good to know. We don't want to make that worse. Hey, maybe we can make it better with the development. So we're going to take all that input, we're going to give it to you. You're going to be able to think about it, come up with your own vision and goals. And then what that does is helps me and the landscape architect put together a plan that does its best to reflect the council's vision and goals for that area. And if we can't, we're going to tell you why. One may be bedrock. That may not be possible to do it that way. Or it may create new opportunities. So, and I put tentative up there, but we're thinking September 6th would be the first public open house. This presentation that the council saw tonight is the same thing the public's going to get, okay? And city and neighborhood residents and the planning commission, they will be invited to participate and provide input on issues and goals. And again, as I said, that information is provided to the council in a draft vision and goal statement for your review and adoption or for modification in the future. And then that vision and goal statement is used to inform the design. So that's where we've been, and that's where things are going. And the administrator and I are working on a schedule to get through phases 2 and 3 sometime before now in the middle of October. So once the council decides on a concept plan, and you'll be presented with some options. Then what happens is, where's Larry? Larry, in order to get a handle on some of the road costs, not that the city would be building the roads, but the road costs always translate into lot costs. We're going to be doing test pits out there within the proposed right-of-way to figure out how much bedrock is there no bedrock, and we may have to make some adjustments. So we want to be able to do that sometime in the middle of October, first part of November. And if we can't, we can still, move ahead. We would just have to do that work in the spring, and then we make modifications to the cost estimates. So I thank you for your patience. I know that's a lot of information, but I'm happy to answer questions.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Good job, Walter.
Yes.
Bob, I just have a question,
Yeah.
and this is a really early question. So is the concept coming with you and out of our EDA that this thing gets completely built by the city with the developer right to the house level and then we sell the houses, that they're, is it like we're bringing a developer, they grab the whole area after it's all designed and they put up these houses and sell the houses? Is that the concept? So it's done the way we design it?
Yeah, so, good question, thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, the idea is to lay out the site in terms of lots and roads, and then the builder can just pick their lots. They can come in and build. The city's not building the housing, we're just laying it out. So it may end up in a preliminary plat, and a builder would come in and say, I want to take this 800 feet and these 12 lots. And then the council could say, okay, go ahead, they come on in, they final plat it, they build the road, they build the house. So I've done this many times, and with this particular site, no one builder would ever come in and spend the time and money that it takes to figure out, is there a project? Is the council gonna support it? Am I gonna run into challenges with the neighbors or stormwater or environmental? So what the council is doing with the small area planning process is you're setting the expectations about what you're gonna approve, and you're minimizing the risk for the builder. Because all of these unanswered questions create extraordinary costs and risk for a builder. We also get input from real estate agents and builders. So these concept plans that we're coming up with, we're talking with local builders and getting their input and feedback. So it's just not my idea. And then the gentleman who I brought on, the landscape architect, has been doing this for almost 4 years for National Home Builders. He's won awards in designing sites. So home builders often hire him to design their site. And he's really gifted in that way to try to put something together that's feasible and that's attractive, and that in the end, there will be a house there. So that's a long answer, Mayor, but I know.
Marty?
So the city would get the roads, utilities, kind of a preliminary plat, but not necessarily a final lot plat? And are we gonna be doing preliminary landscaping and earthwork and everything? Or are we leaving that up to individual builders, or building a cluster or building townhouses?
Mayor and council, what you'll get is, think of it in terms of a preliminary plat, showing where the public and private utilities will go. So once the council comes up with, chooses an alternative, then I will give that to the local private utility companies, and they're gonna say, okay, here's how we're gonna serve this area, and here's what it'll cost.
With the public utilities part, sewer, water.
And then the public utilities, we're working with SEH. They will also figure out, here's the most efficient way to run water and sewer, and they'll provide an estimate, okay? And then the city will have, and you can give to local builders, here's sort of the preliminary plat. There's maybe 25, 30 lots, and here's your land development cost, roughly. And they'll say, okay, this is great. I have a big incentive to pursue this because I've got a lot of this information. Then they'll come to you and say, I want these 5 lots. They'll final plat it, and then they'll build the road, they'll put in the utilities, they'll do the grading, and they'll build the house.
To their 5 lots.
Yes.
And then whoever picks up the next 5 lots,
Correct.
what if there's a gap?
Well, in the PUD, you will have control over that.
Okay.
You will have control over what the phasing is and how the phasing occurs. So if there's 10 lots on one section, one developer picks up 1, 2, 3, and the developer says, I don't want 4, 5, and 6, I want to do 7, 8, 9. You can say, no, this is how we're going to do this.
Or the road and utilities still gets lumped into that part of that project, whether they take all the lots or not all the lots.
Yeah, yes, that could happen too. You have many choices. But that's down the road. Those kind of decisions are. I just, the last project that I did was a 210-acre project that had 1,400 units. And I worked with the same landscape architect. We did the same thing. And it was about 400 single-family homes and 900 multifamily.
Was the funding to build the street, the utilities, the city's responsibility, or is that rolled into the developer's building cost and part of the home sale price?
Right now, I would say that's the developer's cost.
Council, anything else for Bob?
Another question, so as far as your initial phase one, looks like, just going through your list, tile work you've gone through,
Yes,
Alta,
yes,
you've gone through
yes,
phase one,
yes,
geotechnical, no,
not yet,
but you obviously presented the public, private utilities,
yes.
regulatory, that's.
Yes.
Okay,
There'll be, council member, there'll probably be some modifications to the, it'll probably end up being a plan unit development PUD.
okay. Market analysis, you've gone through that, and the summary report, that's what we're holding here.
That's it, yeah, that's the summary report.
So it's just the geotechnical, which is sort of geotechnical. Digging test pits is,
Yes,
you're just considering bedrock, no bedrock is your geotechnical investigation.
yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
So what if you don't have bedrock, you've got an area with, 20, 30, 40 feet of soils? Are you gonna go back and do soil borings so that builders know about foundation design, building design, groundwater, things like that?
If the council wanted to do that, I did not work that into the scope, I just figured this is enough work to give to a builder or developer, that they can do the rest.
So that any particulars on geotechnical design for streets, utilities, site grading, building foundations are all gonna be on the developer?
Yes. Well, I think the street design council member, I think the city has their own cross-sections in place to do the,
But they would have to follow standards developed by SEH, or plans and or specs developed by SEH, or are they?
They would have to follow city street standards, whatever your standards are for new road construction, that those are the ones that have to be followed.
So they would hire their own PEs to design streets, utilities, stormwater runoff, whatever,
Yes.
all of those
Yeah.
requirements.
So the plan would show where the street's gonna go in the right of way, but when they actually build it, they'd have to hire an engineer to actually design the street and
Right.
then submit all that to
Okay.
the city engineer.
It'd be subject to Marty's approval, just like we do there.
Yes.
Their construction projects being done by consultants.
Good. But those consultants are working for the developer
Yes,
of their, whoever comes first and does their segment first?
yes,
Okay, and then
But
it's
they have to follow city
stepwise?
standards.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for Bob?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, Steph, are we ready for you?
Sorry.
We can get through these pretty relatively quickly, all your rest of your items. MAPE MOU,
Yes, I apologize. We had a correction on Eileen's MAPE, or the clerk treasurer position MOU for MAPE when we first approved it last year, when that position was created. So the correction on this is, on page 91, under 4. She gets a step-up pay when I am not here, and it was not included in our prior MOU. So I just want to include that into this, and I recommend that we approve this.
okay, council looking for a motion to approve the amended memorandum of understanding for the city clerk
I'll make
treasurer
that motion,
position.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. April, second for that.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution number 0822-75, increasing spending authorization.
What I'm requesting here is I've had some conversations with our auditor, Bonnie, on the spending allocation of where we have to come back to council. So this is just for budgeted items that have already been approved by the council. Right now, if anything is over $5,000, we have to bring it back to council for approval. And what I'm recommending is that we increase that amount up to $25,000. At that threshold, then we would have to bring a budgeted item back to council. We would require the bids by state guidelines of that we would have those within that when we bring it back to council when we hit the $25,000 threshold. Anything that's not budgeted would have to come to council no matter what the cost is, and that's our common practice as of right now.
This question, I don't know if it would be for you or for the attorney. Would this extend to our EDA? Where else would it be used? PUC?
Is different.
It would be specific to the administrator position.
Okay. You know, because, occasionally the public utilities wants to spend 25,000, that's a budgeted item, and we always approve them, I think, don't we normally? We bring them
Oh,
here.
we do. I think Attorney Lindsay made it clear a year or so ago that we don't have to, but it's a good practice that we do.
Okay. Well, I think this is good. They're budget items. It's red tape at that point. I would hope our administrators would be cognizant enough that if for some reason we're extremely over budget at some point, that we might have to have talks about spending any money, if something happens early in the year. But other than that, it's already, it's been approved. So I think I don't see any issue with that. And I'd entertain a motion to adopt that resolution, allow that to take place. Chair Way 22-75. Plus council has different opinions. I'll entertain the motion.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Second.
Support.
Thank you, Adam. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. MOU for ASME, what? Seasonal employee extension stuff, page 95.
On page 95, like Larry had said, with our seasonal employees, we were down quite a few just from the beginning of the year, and then we are losing quite a few earlier in the year. And with our campground and with Redhead having a big race in October, we find a need that we need seasonal employees longer. And what we've done is Susan and Larry have done some research and have updated me on that as far as extending that up to 6 months to allow for the seasonal employees, which would allow someone to stay on the campground until after our October race and make sure that's all good to go, and then allow a couple of our current employees to be able to stay on. Unfortunately, this year we didn't have enough to have folks out at Redhead. We were hoping to have seasonal employees, but we didn't get enough, and we were low within the public works garage too. So what this is gonna allow is to be able to have some of that extra work done. I do have an AFSCME MOU on here, which would correct that in the contract, and we did get support from the AFSCME union on this too.
So right now it's 67 shifts.
Correct.
What does that translate into if in 6 months?
It's like, it basically is almost 3 months merit or 6 months.
Okay. So,
And we did budget, there's budgetary money left. That's
Yeah,
already been
'cause-
approved. We were, I spoke to it the last few months, we've been severely under, right.
yeah, like I said, I don't have an issue with it. The 67 had to do with the union to start with, okay? You can't go over 67 or they get like dibs on the next job that comes down the pipe or whatever. So as long as this goes through the union and they're okay with this MOU, they sign off on the MOU. Like you said, it gives you a longer season for some of these people. They could use the extra money. We're budgeting for the whole year in most cases, for the whole summer, trying to get as many as we can anyway. So
Alright.
I don't have an issue with it. Marty?
So this would allow to exceed the 67 shifts then?
Correct. Yeah.
Or we could even, if there's, hire a casual to now, if somebody wants to join now and work through the end of October, they could get hired now and continue on.
Yes,
Okay.
I did do that the 1 year, and it was just to find someone mid-year that only wants to work a few months, it just didn't work out. Where it works out better that I see now is where you get these college kids that are done, or even the high school kids, and then they're able to stay on longer.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's really hard to hire mid-year. And there's budgeted money, we had budgeted for 20 casual laborers, only got 14. As of today, we're down to 8, and tomorrow we're down to like 6 or 7. We had 3 leave today, so college, it seems to be getting earlier, but when I was in college, it was still quarters and not semesters. Things were different then.
So council looking for a motion to approve this MOU. I think it's a good thing. It allows Larry to keep people around longer, the ones that want to stay more than anything.
And it's a 1 year, it daylights at the end of this year, Mayor, so then it's like a tryout period, we'll evaluate and then move from there as we can.
Do you anticipate this to be a negotiation item during
I do.
ASME?
I do.
Okay, or I don't know if it's a negotiation, a point, obviously.
Absolutely.
That would have to be cleaned up. So, all right, I like it. I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Second.
Support.
Thank you, Marty. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
So we're changing that to
It's a special meeting, okay? So Stephanie wants to set a special meeting to discuss the budget. Whereas would be bringing Robert in as well from, Robbie from Five Bugles Wendell, and discussing this truck that the fire department wants to talk about purchasing, where we'll have some more information. Your thought was, I kind of probably went out of order, but you were thinking 2 weeks from now, the 22nd week?
Yep, and the auditors will be here too.
So the
So
auditors are added to this as well? then?
Yes. Yep.
they'll come in on their budget, they want to chew us out about spending 50 cents an hour extra on casual labor.
Yep.
Just kidding. Now we're gonna go through that budget, the things they brought up, so
So the week of the 22nd would be.
that'd be your preferred week. How's everybody's calendar look?
Could we possibly do it the 23rd,
August 23rd.
Tuesday?
I'm good. 5 p.m.
I'll make a motion.
Are we holding it here?
Yes.
Schedule a working session, August 23rd, 5 p.m.
It's gonna be a special meeting. Did you say
Special meeting,
special
I'm
meeting?
sorry.
Sorry. Because if we want to purchase that truck, we can make that decision there. I don't know if Robert's gonna need a decision that night. He might,
Yeah. there might be
because he wants to talk about which way we would bid this project. Obviously, the budget is just preliminary budget, so. Special meeting, September 23rd, 5
August.
p.m.
August 23rd.
August 23rd.
Or August
5 p.m.
23rd, sorry.
5 p.m.
Yes.
Make that motion, yeah?
Yep.
Second for that?
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Thank you, Adam. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Let me just write that down. Give me a minute. August 23, 5 p.m. Budget. Others. Okay. Additional trail work at Redhead. I'll just turn that over to Stephanie. I know Marty's been working out there on things too. So between the two of them, we'll get through this.
Yeah, we had a significant storm, which you all know, in Memorial Weekend, which did a big washout at Redhead and the Rim Trail. And we also had Rock Solid out there that was able to do some work on that washout, which has extended the amount of dollars that it's going to be for that project. Marty, do you have anything to talk about the storm?
Well, the Memorial Day storm closed the Mesabi Trail for a couple weeks and washed out part of the Rim Trail. Barber Creek came up out of its banks and flooded the Mesabi Trail. It wasn't really damaged badly, it was just mostly standing water, but the flow of water went over the Redhead Trail into the pit and made a huge washout down into the mine pit, which closed that trail, and Rock Solid built a bypass trail around it, and that trail remains closed until we can figure out cost and, maybe some grant funding to fix that. And there was other damage there too as well. The Roller Derby Trail, Fractured Falls Trail, both had to have some repair work done due to the excessive rainstorm. And all in all, they spent about almost 2 weeks working on damage repair. And then they got onto their planned scope of work, and they've been working on that ever since. There's a little bit of money. There's about $8,000 left in the maintenance grant. There's about $7,000 of unspent casual labor, and apparently Steph thinks there's maybe another $5,000 somewhere that we can reallocate to pay for this.
Yeah, we do have enough in the Redhead budget that we can reallocate to pay for the additional work that needed to be done. But like Marty said, our trail maintenance funds from IRRR those will all be expended by the end of this year.
look for motion to approve the additional trail work. I don't know what else we do at this point. We gotta open, gotta keep it open.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Second for that.
Support.
And further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, April?
Is there any way that we can look for a different sort of rock, what is it, rock solid? Is there any other professional places like rock solid out there that doesn't charge $250 an hour?
That's a standard rate. It's a state approved rate.
State approved rate.
You know,
All-
all the
It's a
contractors. out there.
contract rate, yeah.
Yeah, the state has negotiated rates with these builders. But yes, there are other contractors out there.
Okay. That was just a question I wanted to bring forward, I guess. So we gotta figure out where we're gonna get money, you know?
Yep.
The money's there. We have the money to pay for it.
Well, what if
Future.
it yeah, for future, yeah. What if it gets washed out again? I worry about that
That's
stuff.
not the issue at hand right now. We're trying to solve this problem, to allow them to continue working and finish the scope that we have laid out for them for this year.
Oh, I thought they finished work.
No,
The 84 hours, right?
that's what they spent before they even started trying to scope for this year. So if we cut them off, they won't be able to finish the scope that was planned.
Oh, so this
Because-
isn't even stuff that's
No,
finished?
no, this was completely out of their scope. The additional 20,000 was not in their original scope. We didn't plan to have a flood.
Right, but didn't they complete this work for
Yeah,
20,000?
yeah, it's completed.
Yes,
We had to do it right away because
Right,
trails were closed, we had to get them open.
right. That's what I was asking.
So just a little, I don't want to beat this to death, but to spin off April's question, once we're trying to come up with money that may end up being our own, we don't necessarily have to go with a state bid contract, right? There's nothing saying probably, or is there? There probably is for liability purposes, eh?
It all depends on the nature and volume of the contracts that we're looking at entering into.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there, apparently. Okay.
That's something for budgeting for 2023.
Yep.
Decide what to do.
No further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Extend summer hours at City Hall and Library Council. We did this a while back. It's working really great. Stephanie asked me if I would consider doing it permanently. I said, well, you know, it's kind of an MOU to do it. We're going into contract negotiations. How about we just do it through the end of the year and then we can make it part of the negotiation if it becomes a permanent thing. So I think that's the way it ended up, right?
Yep.
We would be just going through the end of the year. Seems to be working good. I think the people are enjoying the extra hours of being able to get to City Hall. There wasn't a huge demand for City Hall afternoon on Fridays anyway. Seems to be working. We're not getting, I don't think we have any negative feedback, do we? So,
No, we've had actually quite a few come in between that 6:30 and 7 time frame to pay their bill, so we haven't had.
so we would want to, what? It's just amend the memorandum of understanding? Is that what that is?
Right, Brian, we can just amend it to extend because it's supposed to expire on Labor Day.
Yep, so what we could do is we could take an action, extending the summer hours through the end of the year, and then just direct staff to prepare a new memo that encompasses that.
Somebody make that motion?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Second for that?
Second.
Thank you, April. Further discussion?
Just a quick question. What are the typical library hours? I mean, when you get back in the school session, I mean, closing down early, or are they typically closed at 4? That'd be my only, if they're, you know,
They're
students.
closed at 5 right now.
But Fridays typically, nobody was there after.
Yeah, okay.
This is extension from last year. It'll be more hours than they were open last year.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Except for Friday. Let me correct that.
Motion carries. Next item I had was the working session with SCH to discuss this. Is that what you had to?
Negotiations?
Yeah. Okay.
Committee for abstaining.
All right, I went in the wrong order. Okay, so we're going to start negotiating with both our MAPE union and our ASME union, and typically the attorney's on there as our person. I don't know who should be on it. I can tell you with me leaving at the end of December, sometimes these extend into January, I should stay off of both of them. April shined pretty well last night, although you never know. So we need to get a council representative out of each of them. Do we need to set the whole committee? Who do you think's gonna, who do you want to sit on here, Brian?
Me and Brian. And one counselor.
Get council.
Yeah.
Just
Brian
you and one
council.
council person on each one, or do you want another staff person?
We could do it. Chief, you've been involved in the past.
Yeah, with LELS.
Oh, with LELS.
Normally it's the administrator
Yeah.
and the attorney and one council person.
With MAPE,
Yeah.
Yeah, with me, because
and an attorney and Larry,
Larry
and a
was,
council person with ASME?
correct.
Okay, so let's take up ASME first. Council person, I'd like to serve on that negotiating committee for the new contract.
I was on it on the last one, so if anybody else would like to, or on some of these committees and these negotiations, it's nice to know what give and take was done on the last one too, so.
I mean, I'm not against serving on them, it's just, you know, if it doesn't get done by December 31st, so you gotta pick a new council member, that's all.
I'd be willing to do it.
So you'll do the ASME one? Okay, so let's look for a motion then to appoint Larry, the attorney, and Councilperson Mikla Raha to serve on the ASME negotiating committee. And you too?
Yeah.
You want to be on all of them?
Yeah.
Okay, those four.
I'm not doing it, she doesn't know there.
Yeah, that's fine. You can leave me off.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second for that?
Support.
Thank you, Marty. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. MAPE negotiating committee. Those are our supervisors, Attorney Lindsay, Administrator Scraba.
Yes.
I would do that, Mr. Mayor. The only reason I didn't wanna do ASME is because I am an ASME member, so.
Who else were we supposed to put on a fourth one? Just three, right?
Mhm.
Okay, motion to have Administrator Scraba, Attorney Lindsay, and Councilperson Fountain serve on the negotiating committee for MAPE.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Second.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now to working session with SCH.
Which I'd like to have next week. Tuesday or Wednesday, preferably.
Looking to have a working session with SCH and our engineer. Larry, you gonna be there too?
Yes.
We're gonna talk about that project, all the ins and outs. We're gonna talk with Matt Reed from SCH. We're gonna talk about any displeasures we have, how we're gonna get this finished, how we're gonna get them paid, if we're gonna keep any money, all those little things. And Stephanie would like to hold that next week, which would be the week of the 15th. Once again, airport's on the 15th.
Selfishly, I would also ask again, we do this on a Tuesday. If it works for everybody else. Fire department actually has a house donated to Vernon, and we also get to train in it both Wednesdays in August here, so I'd love the opportunity to take part in those trainings.
August 16th, 5 p.m.
Yes.
That's the motion.
If it works for everybody else, yes, I'll make the motion.
Second for that.
Support.
Further discussion?
What time?
5 p.m.
5 p.m.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank
Opposed?
you.
Motion carries. Let me write that one down too, before we move on. August 16th, 5 p.m. CH. Okay, good.
I'll do it.
All right, that's everything for you, right? I got them all?
I think so.
All right, so we did get the letter from Jim Bouquet, letter of resignation, accept his letter of resignation, send a thank you letter. As you know, Jim took a job that omits him from being able to serve on a commission. So accept his resignation and send a letter looking for motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Second?
Support.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Police Commission application for Parks and Rec. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. Both of these are what my recommendation is on the Police Commission. This David Weber brings in a huge amount of background in law enforcement, attorney stuff. I like them. The second one, Sarafia brings in a lot to do with children and events and stuff, and I think she would be actually a great fit in that location. So unless the council is opposed to that, I'd look for a motion to appoint David Weber to the Police Commission first.
I talked to Sarafia before, and I think she would be more apt to be on the police commission. That was her first goal to be on. I think that with the members of the BIPOC community want to be engaged in it, I'll make a motion to appoint Sarafia Gravel onto the police commission.
Okay, is there a second for that? Second, call for a second on that.
Support.
Thank you, Marty. Further discussion?
I'd say again, we encourage people to be engaged in our community, so when they step up and they actually come here to try to be engaged, we should be supportive of them.
Yeah, I agree. I just, it's a very specialized field, and just the background the other individual brings, that was my recommendation. And since Sarafia had applied for both positions, I felt it was a happy.
Right. I felt the same way, Mr. Mayor. I've read both their applications. They're very well written, and the legal secretary, Mr. Weber, he had a lot going for him. For the police commission, nothing against anybody else that has applied.
No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Okay, that motion passes. With that said, then my recommendation would be Brittany Jacobson to get a second person on the other board, so I'd entertain that motion. Okay,
Support.
thank you, Cheyenne. Thank you, Adam. Further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Ram's call for action. Actually, Marty asked to put this on, but we're trying to get the legislator back at the table. There's a lot of great reasons to do that. There's a lot of bonding. Obviously the state of Minnesota has a lot of surplus. It's just sitting there. Our school is looking for money. Everybody's looking for money. Basically, it's a letter to send down there to try to encourage them to go back to the table and try to do a little bit more work this session. And looking for a motion to be on board to send this letter. What are we actually doing? We're doing, there's a little form here they want us to
I'll make a
fill out.
motion, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, they have a form letter, basically. We'll be filling in the
Second.
details. So Marty made the motion, second for April. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, can we also send letters on our own with permission by the...
You can always do that, I believe. There would be no issue with sending a personal letter as well.
Personal
All
letter,
these,
correct.
yes.
Yep.
Like as a resident?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we're gonna take a little recess. We're gonna go into closed session. We're gonna talk about this line freeze claim. Give everybody time to get out. We're gonna let the camera crew go. We're gonna take no action after this. The attorney's gonna advise us on a claim. We're gonna come back in a regular session. We'll tape record everything right up till we adjourning the regular council meeting, in case there's any questions of what happened after, since the cameras are shutting off. Okay, so let's take 5, let everybody take a few minutes, we'll clear everybody out except the attorney.